Welcome to All Killer, No Filler. It's October 2nd today, and I am here with the Pilot House media buying motley crew here. We have Director of Operations, or COO, we have Chief of Operations, Andrew Stern, as well as media buyers, Jacob Geary, Nate Van Kennett, and making his debut on the All Killer, No Filler program, Grayson Rudsky. Welcome to All Killer, No Filler. How are you guys feeling this Friday?
Feeling great, man.
Good. Feeling good.
Nice. We got a couple last minute fill-ins here, so thanks for coming on, guys. We're here to talk about the news of the day, talk about some of the things that we're seeing on the front lines of our agency. Let's start with what we call the value rocket. What's one thing about media buying, about content, about copywriting that people need to be thinking about in the run-up to Black Friday, Cyber Monday that they might not be?
Yeah, I mean, from my end, I'd say it's really focusing on that top of funnel right now, and bringing them in, interesting creative like UGC Mashups, things like that. Repurposing your content you've got with past winners, new formats, compilations, things like that, and feeding that top of funnel list as you kind of head into Q4 here, because I think traffic costs are, we're already seeing them go up with the major retailers like shifting their budgets online. A lot of people are going to be shopping from home this winter, so that'd be my main thing. I
love it. And UGC Mashups or something, everyone's using UGC in their funnels, and once you have all this material, it's just so critical that you get maximum value out of it. So literally you're just talking about set to music, interesting mashups where you isolate specific snippets of phrase that are powerful and just kind of put them into compilation UGC videos.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, not necessarily just putting the raw video out there, mashing it up with a few other influencers that have sent you content, things like that. And like you said, yeah, just repurposing it.
Nice. Okay.
So the type of UGC, can be unboxing, can be first person, can be kind of interview style. There's so many different types of UGC. And I think people get, a little bit narrowed down in their understanding of UGC and think it's just one type. So those compilations can really highlight all these different aspects. If you're not getting, a UGC that covers them all, just put a bunch together and you'll cover your bases.
And it can also be a compilation of not just videos, but static assets as well. And so it just gives you another way to utilize static assets that you might not have thought about.
Very sure, cool. Yeah. And when you build these are you basically just saying to video editors, hey, here's a bunch of stuff, put it together in a really cool way? Or are you actually having to storyboard it and isolate it and specifically give direction about which clips to use where?
I'd say a bit of both. I think that like giving them their own creative direction is fine too. Like they're going to go through the UGC that you have available and see, they're going to know the same best parts that you would think are the best parts. And then they're going to be able to throw that together nicely. So
I think the storyboarding and that side of it really comes in when you're iterating on a winner, right? So yeah. You have a select group of clips in a compilation, or you have this one unboxing that's doing really well. And then how do we just optimize that or show a different portion of it first and get a reaction right off the top to really, drive top of funnel.
And that's really what you're trying to optimize for, I guess, in most of your videos are those first 3 seconds. You really want to get something that hooks people in that thumb scrolling moment, right?
Definitely, yeah. Pretty much all platforms, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool. All right.
Quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
I got a question before we move on is captions. I know it's kind of something people are always wondering about. Are you guys throwing them on? Are you using Facebook auto caption or getting them built right into the videos themselves?
What I do is every time I get new creative, rather than wait for our creative guys to throw captions on it, I'm launching them instantly and having Facebook review, which usually takes up to 24 hours. And then they'll actually review and put the captions on for you. And then while that's happening and I'm running those ads, I'm having the creative guys build out the same exact assets with, brighter, more vibrant, more noticeable captions on top, because those do tend to work better. But I think it's still worth launching with Facebook captions. Just two ways to test.
What about no captions? Like, do you see performance differences between that? Is it a no-brainer?
It's definitely a no-brainer. Yeah.
Nice.
Majority of people scroll by without having volume on, so you need to be able to catch them with a few words, and that's why it's so important to have that first 3 seconds something super important, and whether or not it's something visually super important or just somebody saying something super important, those captions really help for that. So
very cool. Facebook's captioning has improved so much in just the past couple of years. I remember doing it in 2017 and it was way off, but I feel like it's like 95% accurate at this point. With the podcast, just because it's a big file, we always we let Facebook do the whole podcast and then we hard code all the subs on the clips, on the shorter clips. But yeah, I'd say like 95% accurate. Do you find that it's mostly accurate in those first stages?
Yeah. Didn't used to be though. Like you said, like it would take more time to have to go back and like edit everything. But now, it's pretty close.
Nice. YouTube's got to do that. YouTube doesn't have any services like that. And I've actually found a way you can actually, as a little hack, you actually can download the files from Facebook, and you have to. There's some hacky things. Maybe I can include it in the show notes. But you can basically take the files, convert them into SRT files from Facebook, and then upload them to YouTube. Little hack there. Nice. Okay, on to the big news of the day.
One more question.
One more question.
Yeah, right. Let's just roll with this, right? Let's roll with this. Oh,
just roll with it.
Earthquake on your end there, Eric. What about thumbnails these days? I mean, it used to be basically a big source of optimization, manual optimization, but ever since Facebook has really brought their platform to the next level in terms of auto optimization. Are you guys getting in there at all with thumbnails, or are you just letting the system do the dirty work for you? And from that, can you extract out any valuable knowledge from that those learnings?
Once in a while, I've had a video or like a mashup or a GIF or something like that at one point in it has something super eye-catching or something that you like don't know what it is or something like that, and so you would want to click to know what it is. And so I'll like test with different pieces at the start, but most of the time I'm just using Facebook's auto optimization.
Yeah, same on my end. Mostly letting Facebook do that now.
Yeah, I've tested it in pockets on the ad level if like the auto thing that comes up is like really gross looking. But yeah, I haven't seen any like performance changes, so just been letting Facebook take the reins.
That is the motto. Facebook take the reins. Now, Andrew, I want to just ask you if you had any more questions on these topics before we moved on to the main section of the day.
Sorry, no, that was me. That was me trying to extract some learnings out of these young guys. So appreciate the time for that.
Oh no, it's perfect. All right, well then on to the main topic of the day, which is Facebook's announcement that they are deprecating their 28-day conversion window, moving to a 7-day click window and a 1-day impression conversion window. What are our thoughts on this? How do we think this might affect the industry at a high level? Andrew, how about you? What are your thoughts?
I know that a lot of people are kind of shook up about it. I think that it's kind of important to take a step here and really understand what's happening actually here. Nothing fundamentally is changing from an optimization standpoint, from a performance standpoint. It's basically Facebook reframing all of the data that it has into different windows in preparation for some obstacles and challenges that might be upcoming due to privacy, browser changes, all these types of things. Really, in my mind, I think that it's quite a smart move on their part, because they have been optimizing at a campaign level the defaults to 7-day or 1-day click and view attribution anyways. So it makes sense to report on what they're actioning on So you can really understand what the algorithm is taking into account for its optimization. So as marketers, I think that this actually positions us in a better way to read the data, react, and optimize. But the flip side of that is it's going to take a mindset shift from everyone on the platform, because the disruption is performance isn't changing, our business objectives aren't changing, the targets aren't changing, nothing's changing there, but the actual output that we see from the data is gonna shift. So, you know, what if our benchmark was 3 ROAS or you know, a certain CPA, it's going to be different. And it's really easy to look right now in the system and see what that's going to be. But that doesn't mean we're making less money or we're driving less performance or anything like that. It just means that the data that we look at and our day-to-day decisions just have to shift with that. So, you know, it's super intriguing to kind of follow along, because I think that there will be a lot of shifts in the way people do business, but not necessarily any disruptions to the overall performance of the platform, or the performance of what we actually do as media buyers. It's just changing that viewpoint, changing the horizon,
and ultimately in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And to back up what he's saying, Facebook already optimizes on a 7-day click, 1-day view optimization schedule, and so it's not actually even using 28-day click, 1-day view. It's already on 7-day click, 1-day view. So again, nothing's changing performance wise.
Yeah, I was looking at some like comparing windows, and I mean, like 9 out of 10 accounts, it's maybe like a 1% difference, you know, in that reporting difference. And like Andrew said, again, that's an aesthetic thing, just the reporting. It's not actually the performance is different. So I think a lot of accounts probably won't even really notice that. And, you know, like the guy said, again, it'll clean things up a lot, especially as you're reporting between platforms and stuff as well. But yeah, I mean, some of those campaigns that might have a longer buyer's journey, you know, install to trial to purchase, or, you know, $500 price point where someone might be thinking about that, you might see a bit of a shift there. Again, just on that.
Totally. I think that's really important to say, Jacob, with those longer purchase decisions, you know, you will see changes there, but again, just changes in the data, not changes in the actual performance of things. So you just have to look at those leading indicator metrics and think more about how they apply to that LTV, to that longer purchase decision of kind of every marketing strategy that we have, and just you know, extrapolate and make sure that we have that layer of strategy on top of it if it is a longer purchase decision, because that's important too.
Yeah, and something that you can do to kind of help shorten that purchase decision is, like I said on last week's podcast, using 1-day click view optimization on campaigns. So training your pixel to optimize to a shorter conversion window as well. Obviously, there's going to be times that this isn't the best bet, because like you have a super long conversion window. People aren't going to buy your product in a day or two. But that is one thing, is trying out some campaigns that are using a shorter optimization window to train your pixel to look for people that will purchase faster. And then none of this matters.
It's like swinging with 2 bats, you know?
Exactly.
So you really train them on those people to skim them off right at that critical moment. That's interesting. I see it as Facebook really kind of like fortifying their position around that 7-day window. They've already based so much of their technology and their tracking on that 7-day window. It's like they were casting this larger net with the 28-day attribution window that just is going to cause more problems in the industry as a whole. Like, I guess Google loves this announcement. Google loves this announcement just because it means there's going to be fewer conversions that people are fighting over from their system.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Google eventually switches that too, because I know a lot of this is like driven again by like privacy and some technological changes there. When iOS 14 is coming out, I think, you know, it's all tied in there. So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Something strange to think about too is that Facebook, since it's a last touch model, and it won't be taking last touch after 7 days, and Google is a last touch model up to 30 days, there should in theory be an extra however many days that is for Google to take last touch rather than Facebook, which will be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But they're going to face the same technology,
exactly. Yeah.
Restrictions eventually. So
yeah,
I think Eric, you nailed it on the head. It's it's better as an industry if we just get ahead of this and kind of plan for the new reality here. At the end of the day, everyone's still driving the same value, so that isn't changing. It's just how it's represented in the systems. So if we just reset our mindset on that, then there is no fighting between platforms, because at the end of the day, Shopify or whatever platform your store or your site is based on, it's still going to show the same numbers. So we just want to be able to make smart decisions and provide value on the best value, most efficient value on each and every channel.
Nice. Yeah, it does feel like there are some tectonic shifts happening in the industry. I would say the other thing that this conversion window change signals to advertisers is it's now more important than ever to build your list, to get emails. These people, take them off of that platform where especially if you have that longer consideration window for your purchase, making sure that they're on that list so that you can kind of continue to market to them on your own cadence. But I think when you speak, and you kind of laid it out at the beginning there, and I think you said a lot in laying out some of these seismic shifts that are coming, and you can see all these other platforms in the space starting to make these shifts as well. Facebook releasing their conversions API, Shopify also kind of meeting them halfway, starting to help them build this server-to-server architecture. Andrew, could you just lay it out again a little bit more about like what you see happening in the industry, and then a little bit about what's being done to like not make it an ad apocalypse?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly no expert when it comes to this, but server-to-server technology has been around for ages. Like, it's definitely not a new thing. It's really something that these advertising platforms have kind of avoided because they don't gather as much data into their systems by solely using server to server. So if they take this preference and this priority on pixel placement, that means they're literally gathering just a ridiculous amount of data, even on instances that they have nothing to do with and no need to be there. They're gathering that data. So that's definitely the reason why Pixel's been around so long. Now that the walls are closing in here on that for obvious reasons around privacy and consumer protection, server to server, which again has been around for a while, is now kind of the only option. So
it's more accurate, but it's less multi-dimensional. I like the way you were describing the Pixel. It sort of like takes information in passively from from all sorts of different areas, whereas server to server is a technology that's sort of like, it will get the job that you program it to do. It'll tell you when that occurs, but it's not going to collect information passively.
It has to have a direct connection, right?
Yeah.
So because it's not, yeah. So with that direct connection, though, I think that there will be some more advances around server to server technology. I think it came up in conversation today with our senior buyer group that there are definitely ways to build in view through attribution and other types of attribution, and actually to a more accurate degree. But because these platforms haven't been forced to kind of go down that road, it's still not in its infancy, but there's still a lot more to be developed. So, platforms like Shopify getting in there. I think WordPress was one of the first kind of site tools to kind of have that built in right away and integrated with Facebook. They're just basically making it dummy proof, so you can basically integrate your ads manager with your Shopify site without having to do any sort of dev work. and so we'll see all of the platforms line up. They'll all do it. Shopify really kind of surprised a lot of people by releasing it, I think, at least 2 months earlier than they were once kind of announcing. So it's great to see that this week, and we're getting right into it.
Now, what I'm trying to understand a little bit is, because it sounds like, from a user's conversion data, the way they interact with your website, like that's going to all be trackable. But what potentially might this do to Facebook, the way Facebook actually makes its audiences? Because I guess that, the way people interact with content, it probably informs that Facebook pixel massively. And if it's not going to be able to listen in the same way, like, you think they're going to just, I know this is all hypothetical, but are they going to have difficulty making these audiences in the same way?
Like, you're logged into Facebook, there's
true.
other ways that are not pixel based for them to track you, and so it's all going to be connected. So I don't think there's any worry about that. It's a black box, right? So we could go on and on hypothetically about kind of what they're doing, but
what should people do?
Trust the big blue. They've got it covered, right?
And even if they weren't able to track you for whatever reason, like, you're still getting the highest intent audience. Like, you're still getting the highest intent people. You're only going to be missing out on the people that were extremely delayed, and you want to build your audience off the hottest customers anyway. So
that's a good point.
True.
Nice. Okay, well, let's wrap up here by just rapid fire. Are there any things that are happening on our campaigns? What are some of the things that are on our minds this week for the build up to Black Friday and Cyber Monday? Anyone have anything unique that's going on with their campaigns, with their clients?
Yeah, so I mean, on my end, like, kind of looping back to the start, just talking about feeding that top of funnel, building your lists up. We have a couple clients who are actually doing some mini tests right now, testing a few different structures of offers. So, like tiered offers, spend over 100, save 10%, spend over 200, save 20. You got your reserve and like pre-order campaigns, more or less, trying to get, again, like, feed those lists. If you have a new product you're releasing in the next few weeks, building the hype around that, engagement campaigns, all of that. So again, like, we could get kind of into the details there, but that's kind of what's going on a lot, I think, across our company right now is road mapping our, offers, our strategy up until Black Friday there. And
Cool.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers most of it. Yeah, like you said, we're doing a lot of top of funnel right now just because traffic costs are going to go up heading deeper into Q4. So we're doing a lot of list building, a lot of top of funnel prospecting, with third-party brands, with influencers, with all these different platforms as well, Snapchat, Pinterest, just to feed our audiences right now so that we can rely heavily on retargeting when it comes down to actually converting all these people around Black Friday.
This was something I saw Social Savannah mentioning the other day, is just given how cheap clicks are on Snapchat versus Facebook, how she's advising clients to be building up this data on these cheaper platforms like Snapchat, for instance, and then sort of like harvesting them on these other platforms later. I know, Grayson, you're one of the players running a lot of Snapchat. What do you think of this strategy and that as a thought?
Yeah, well, you 100% should be running Snapchat. And if you're planning on doing a Q4 test for Snapchat, you should already be doing it, or you should be doing it a week ago. If you have never ran Snapchat for your business before, now is definitely the time. And so for two reasons. For one, if you're completely new to Snapchat, to actually run a proper Snapchat test, you need to unlock all your lower funnel events and campaign optimizations. So what that means is, when you first get a brand new Snapchat account, even if you have a Facebook pixel associated with your brand, you need to mature your Snapchat pixel with 50 events of whatever event you need to target. So obviously the one you want to target is purchase, or as low as possible in your funnel if it's a lead gen campaign. And with costs going up, your expense to do that and run a proper Snapchat test is just going to increase. So imagine if you were running Facebook and you were only allowed to run traffic campaigns. Your your conversions are just not going to be anywhere near what they would need to be to run the test. So if you're thinking about running a Snapchat test, build up those audiences, build up those events now, and unlock the campaign optimizations you need to properly test and potentially scale with Snapchat for Q4. And then as far as lead gen, all the audience building that you're doing on Facebook, you can hit one, new pockets on Snapchat, and also probably cheaper. So you should be doing that as well.
Very cool. Good advice. Nice. Anything else from anyone on the Peanut Gallery? Any podcasts or anything that anyone's listened to lately that they really loved?
I was just going to circle back to the Q4 stuff.
Yeah,
I know
let's do it.
I'm really messing with your MC here. But just to add in to what these guys are talking about for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we've also gone through a lot of kind of soft launches or small scale tests prior, like while it's cheap and before the actual event, to figure out prices, to figure out what promos are going to be best. So basically going through like pilot launches of our Black Friday strategies. And we've done that as early as like Labor Day on some of our clients. But super important to just be that dialed in by the time we get to the actual day of Black Friday or Thanksgiving or whatever kind of sales are going on. To understand that you have your best foot forward, and not just do that with database from last year, but do that with like real fresh kind of data and testing. So there's a ton of different things that really should be dialed in by the time we get to the D-Day.
Especially this year, because the landscape's going to be so much different than last year, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Go into that a little bit, just because of the prolonged quarantine, because of the election, I guess, because of the election spending freeze there. Like, what are some of the things going into the insane 2020?
Well, a lot of big retail just isn't allowing in-store Black Friday, Cyber Monday this year because of COVID, obviously. And so a lot more is going to be online. And so I'm assuming traffic costs are going to be a little bit higher. There's going to be more spending, but people will also be more doing more online shopping than ever, I believe. So
how are we going to stand out? That's got to be the hard. Because it's interesting that the visions of what Black Friday, Cyber Monday like in retail stores are so burned into people's brains of what that sort of like the fun aspect of it as well as the crazy aspect of it. And it'd be interesting to see how online merchants are sort of trying to replicate that feeling in order to get that same effect of mass purchases.
Yeah. Definitely see some interesting ads out there, I think, these holidays. But yeah. I think the key is, like, again, just pre-planning and road mapping up until those days, not just like, oh crap, it's tomorrow. Like, what's the deal? Let's do it. You're really going to have to pre-plan, or you're not going to have the audiences to make any money, more or less, on the day.
Yeah, and getting people warmed up to your product, your brand as well prior to Black Friday, rather than being another ad for a random product in a sea of other Black Friday ads. Having people already, they're going to recognize your product or your ad as soon as they see it, as well as pulling them off the platform. And so starting now, or a couple of weeks ago, building lists so that you're not going to have to rely solely on Facebook to bring people to the site.
Nice.
I think that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Grayson. You go for it.
Interrupt you. Just like we're planning, like as marketers, like trying to get ahead of like the crazy Q4. I think the consumer is doing the same thing. So launching pre-orders, we're seeing a lot of success right now across a couple of accounts with like pre-order offers that like we're upfront about when it's going to be shipping, but like our CPAs on those offers for this time of year compared to last year are drastically improved. So I think your offers and your pre-orders can play a huge part. Just like that can be a positive in the consumer mindset shift.
They're buying into your brand. You know what I mean? With that pre-order, that it's like as soon as they do that, it's not just about the product. It's about belonging in a way, right?
you're selling them on being prepared for the end of the year, and like who doesn't want to not have to shop on Black Friday and do it now instead. So
I think that's the key there, Grayson. Like that's a big aspect, is that people are anticipating shipping delays, they're anticipating shortages, they're anticipating the worst because we've gone through the worst, right? So the mindset, the consumer behavior has shifted for this holiday, where you don't have to fit into the typical structure of years past to succeed. And I think that's where, like you asked your original question, where can we stand out, is by not trying to follow that path, by testing and by having backup plans, plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way down, and starting that early, because people are still in that buying frenzy of just I don't want to use the word hoarding, but it's this kind of like looking out for yourself mentality that unfortunately is pretty rampant right now, and it's there for marketing as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. When we saw what happened, what was the statistic? E-commerce grew 30 years in 3 months, to start with. When you see all those charts, the same thing, even though the COVID times have settled into a slightly different vibe, as we were talking about last week, there's still all that energy that's from the previous retail world that's got to go somewhere. And so figuring out where it happens this year is going to be a really interesting thing to be a part of. And I'm so glad to be part of a team that's so well prepared. So I want to thank you guys, especially for last minute coming on here. I'd say everyone got some really good points in today. Really appreciate you guys coming on. And we'll try to get this out this weekend to help people as soon as possible.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks.
Great.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks for having us on.